Welcome to Fascinating Frontiers, episode 141. Today is July 24th, 2026. The universe has been busy. Let's get into it. Hubble has found the first missing black hole inside a famous star cluster by combining 2 decades of data with new infrared views. 20 years of Hubble archival images combined with James Webb Space Telescope infrared data revealed a black hole in a well-studied globular cluster. The detection relied on measuring stellar velocities that could only be explained by an unseen massive object. This marks the first confirmed stellar mass black hole in such an environment where dynamical ejection was long predicted. Follow-up spectroscopy will refine the mass estimate and test formation models. Hubble's detection relied on 2 decades of proper motion measurements plus fresh infrared imaging. The unseen object's gravitational influence on surrounding stars produced velocity signatures that no other explanation fits. This single find supports models predicting that many clusters once held more black holes than they do today, most having been ejected through dynamical interactions. The next step is targeted spectroscopy to pin down the black hole's mass and test whether similar objects lurk in other clusters already imaged by Hubble and Webb. If every star in a globular cluster moved exactly as expected from visible mass alone, the cluster would fly apart or collapse. Instead, precise tracking shows a handful of stars whipping around at speeds that require an invisible central mass of several solar masses. Picture riding alongside one of those stars for a century. Its path bends sharply every few years as it swings past an unseen companion, while neighboring stars trace gentler arcs around the cluster's overall center of mass. Hubble's repeated imaging over 20 years measures those tiny shifts in position down to a few milliarc seconds, turning the cluster into a vast natural laboratory where orbital mechanics acts like a balanced scale. The method works because a black hole's gravity dominates within a few light days, even though its event horizon is only tens of kilometers across. Yet the same data leave open a stubborn question. Why do some clusters appear to retain their black holes while others seem to have ejected nearly all of them through 3-body encounters billions of years ago? Recent mapping of rift flanks on Venus shows surfaces that formed within the last few 100,000 years. The features appear alongside known volcanic sites, suggesting ongoing internal heat flow. Researchers used radar data from earlier orbiter passes to measure flank slopes and compare them with older terrain. The work challenges the long-held view that Venus has been geologically quiet for hundreds of millions of years. Next steps include higher-resolution imaging from upcoming missions to pinpoint active vents. A cement-like material designed for lunar construction was exposed outside the station for 6 months. Upon return, the samples measured up to 35% stronger than identical controls kept on Earth. The improvement is attributed to vacuum exposure and thermal cycling that altered the material's microstructure. The experiment tests whether lunar regolith can be sintered into durable building blocks without Earth-supplied water. Further tests will examine radiation effects on the same formulation. 2 satellites have completed commissioning and joined the Galileo navigation constellation. Their addition improves coverage redundancy and signal availability for European users. 4 first-generation satellites remain to be launched, with the next pair scheduled for later this year. The expanded constellation strengthens Europe's independent positioning, navigation, and timing capability. The Air Force Life Cycle Management Center will now manage development and sustainment of receivers for the encrypted military GPS signal. The move follows earlier program delays and cost growth. The receivers provide positioning and timing for weapons systems and secure communications. Officials expect the center's oversight to stabilize requirements and speed integration across platforms. Delivery milestones for the next receiver generation remain under review. Observations show a comet whose rotation has reversed, likely from uneven outgassing torques. The changing spin could stress the nucleus enough to cause fragmentation on future solar approaches. The object is one of many studied to understand how comets evolve after repeated heating cycles. Continued monitoring will track whether the spin state stabilizes or accelerates breakup. The Curiosity blog for Sols 4954 to 4960 highlights collaboration between science planners and rover engineers at the University of New Brunswick. The APXS instrument continues to measure rock chemistry while engineers manage power and mobility trade-offs. Past and present engineering contributions are credited with keeping the rover productive after more than a decade on Mars. The post notes upcoming drive and drill plans that depend on this ongoing coordination. NASA reassigned the Sunrise heliophysics mission from a Vulcan Centaur to a SpaceX Falcon Heavy. The change follows earlier vehicle delays and allows the 6-satellite radio interferometer to reach its planned orbit sooner. The mission will study solar radio bursts from a vantage 1.5 million kilometers from Earth. Launch is now expected on the new vehicle in the coming year. An image of NGC 7293, the Helix Nebula, was assembled from 24.3 hours of H-alpha, O3, and LRGB data taken at Farm Tivoli, Namibia. The planetary nebula lies roughly 650 light-years away and surrounds a hot white dwarf. The long integration reveals faint outer shells and intricate filamentary structure. The result demonstrates what dedicated amateur equipment can achieve under dark southern skies. The Copernicus Sentinel-2 satellite imaged the Goldfields Esperance region in Western Australia. The false color view highlights rectangular crop and pasture fields set against red soils and scattered salt lakes. Data from the mission's multispectral instrument allow tracking of vegetation health and irrigation patterns across thousands of square kilometers. The scene demonstrates how routine Sentinel passes support agricultural monitoring in arid zones. A NASA Space Telescope used a novel detection method to identify a planet that had evaded earlier surveys. The technique compensates for stellar activity that masked the planet's gravitational signature. Confirmation came after multiple observing seasons ruled out false positives. The discovery adds to the census of worlds orbiting stars already known to host planets. Astronomers note that searches for extraterrestrial intelligence have largely avoided a portion of the radio spectrum that could carry artificial signals. New receiver technology now allows efficient coverage of those frequencies. Pilot observations are planned to test whether previously inaccessible channels contain narrow-band emissions. The approach could expand the parameter space for technosignature hunts. The Department of Energy has allocated high-assay, low-enriched uranium for upcoming space nuclear power systems. The fuel will support propulsion and surface power concepts that require higher operating temperatures than traditional reactors. Delivery timelines align with planned demonstration flights later this decade. The move reduces reliance on foreign fuel sources for U.S. space nuclear projects. A new Government Accountability Office report notes progress on several NASA programs while warning of continued cost growth and launch delays. The assessment covers major projects including human spaceflight and science missions. Agency officials are reviewing the findings to adjust baselines and contractor oversight. The report will inform upcoming congressional budget deliberations. Data from the MAVEN orbiter show that certain Martian auroras form through magnetic reconnection, a process scaled down from Earth's magnetosphere. The observations captured electrons accelerated along crustal magnetic fields in the southern hemisphere. The findings explain why auroras appear even without a global magnetic field. Continued MAVEN measurements will map how often reconnection occurs under varying solar wind conditions. New data keep reshaping how we read the sky, one precise measurement at a time. Keep an eye on the next round of MAVEN data releases for more details on how often those miniature reconnection events occur. That covers today's space and science news. Share this with a fellow space enthusiast if you found it interesting. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. See you tomorrow. And if you'd rather watch than listen, find us on YouTube at NARA Network. Links in the show notes. This show comes to you from the NARA Network. If you want another sharp daily briefing, Unintended Consequences has you covered. True stories of good intentions that backfired. All our shows are free at naranetwork.com. Following the long arcs, story trackers on naranetwork.com follow major programs across episodes. Tesla, SpaceX, AI, space science, and more. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.